Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode on the Enlighten Up podcast. Today we're going to be talking all things prenatal and the womb, because what if the core wound you've been trying to heal didn't start in your childhood, but started in the womb? And what if the fear, the scarcity, and shame that you've maybe spent your lifetime trying to unravel aren't necessarily personal flaws, they're prenatal imprints coded into your body before your first breath? Today's guest, Christina Warmenbol, walks us into the forgotten origin point of our pain and the place where our true healing begins. She's a soul cartographer of intrauterine life, an Akashic field translator, and a woman who turned her own personal tragedy into sacred devotion to wholeness. In this episode, we're going to explore how trauma embeds before memory, how to reclaim the truth of who you are before the conditioning ever began, and why the womb may be the original portal of spirituality. Christina, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Really, it's a pleasure. It's an honor to be on your show. Absolutely.
Yes, so this is, I think, a very interesting topic. It's one I've touched on definitely with my audience and before in a couple of different episodes, but I have a feeling we're going to go a little deeper today with everything that you're doing. The womb is such an interesting portal, in my opinion. Through one of my own plant medicine journeys, I was shown how the womb is a portal to all access of the universe and beyond. And so, what are your thoughts on that?
Wow, that's a wonderful experience you've had there, Nicole. Really, I would like to hear from you also what that's about. But anyways, yeah, it's the start of life, and we come into life as a soul. That means when we are in the womb of our mother, we are still very connected to the life of the soul, and the soul is immense, is just infinite, uh, and gradually we lose that connection, and that is really very saddening for the soul, because it would like to be restored, to be really completely be aware of, like, that we can be aware during life, where we come from. Because before we came to this earth, before we came into this womb, we knew what it was about, that we were coming to discover, to learn, to develop, to manifest here in this world. And so gradually, in fact, of course, through the incarnation process, we lose a grip on that. And that is our deep, deep sadness, in fact, of disconnection and separation, because we come from this incredible, open consciousness of love, of unconditional love, that is so overwhelming that we cannot find here. And some people can find that through near-death experiences, or maybe like, a trip that you have done with psychedelics. But in the normal way of living, in our normal consciousness, it is not easy to find again. So, and through meditation, of course, we can gradually come to that again, but that, like, small moments. So, and if we can really get back to that incredible consciousness, we are aware of the real source of life, and the real goal of our lives also is to bring that incredible love experience to this world and to manifest it here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's right. There is like this myth that like life only starts, after birth. The consciousness starts only after birth. Like Freud said, it's only after the second, in the first 2 years of life that your consciousness is made. But now we know, after 40 years even of scientific studies, that we know that it starts way earlier, before birth, and even it starts already before conception, in the incarnation process. And there are things already happening. And so if we are ending up in some complications there, in some struggles, it is completely possible also to restore that, to reprogram that. So it shouldn't be, if whenever there is like a wound, starting there, it is still possible to unravel that and to neutralize it and to reprogram that. So that's important to know, because otherwise, if we are like, for instance, a child of a mother that didn't really accept us, like she was not ready to be a mother, we feel that we're not welcome here, and that is then the start of a whole series of not feeling good enough and being a failure, and also, making that failure happen all the time unconsciously. And then we have these difficulties to manifest in life. We can have even accidents that we attract because of that, just to prove to our unconsciousness that, in fact, we shouldn't have been here.
Mm-hmm.
We are not enough. We are, not good enough. So, um, yeah, so it is an enormous programming cycle in these 9 months, and even as I said, before conception, the process that we go through from the moment that we have decided to come to the earth, and then the process of gradually coming towards the earth as a soul, is already a way of programming. Um, let's say, like, core emotions that come to us, like that we experience, like sadness or anger or revolts, because we are picking up again emotions that we have been cultivating in past lives, and that we need to work on here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the first step is already in this incarnation process, where we come closer to the earth, and where we discover who are going to be our parents, in which country we're going to be born, etc. And that can bring remembrances of us, from past lives. And that can already constrict us and say, oh, I don't want to go, they have pushed me here, I didn't consent to this. And that's not right. We always have consented to that,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
we've.
that's something I do hear, and um, uh, I'll be honest, it kind of, I don't want to say it infuriates me. That's a really strong way to describe it, but it does irritate me when people choose to go into a victimhood status of what their soul is going through, because I think from a spiritual perspective, when you've done even just a little bit of work, inner work, you know that there is always free will here, and that there is a lot of choice in choosing certain lessons. And just because they're hard, sometimes very difficult lessons to go through in this lifetime, doesn't mean you didn't choose them on purpose. Usually there's a very big reason as to why you're needing to go through something like that in on a soul level. So you mentioned a few things there that I want to kind of circle back to. First, let's go back to the point of conception, or I should say, when a consciousness of the soul is coming into the actual fetus, so to speak. because there's a couple of different things. I know science is definitely starting to show that consciousness is definitely starting before birth,
Mhm.
but there's different ideas of when that is. I know there's a channel, Bashar, who has said that it happens at week 7. There is also the idea that as soon as the sperm and the egg connect, like the consciousness is invoked, and there's like that spark, that life, and so consciousness is beginning at that point. And then you mentioned that it's possible that the consciousness is actually already before the sperm and the egg even connect together. So, can you go into a little more of that? Because that isn't something that we've talked about on the podcast, is that moment.
Right. Well, and I must say you that there are many different, as you just mentioned here, different interpretations of when that is exactly. Some people say, oh, it's at birth when the soul really
Takes its
connects to
first breath.
the first breath. Yes. There other people say, yeah, it's when the mother becomes aware that she's pregnant. And in fact, they all are right, but it's like a gradual connection. And every time a little bit deeper, a little bit more intense. And so, in fact, what happens, of course, there is a consciousness of the soul that is happening for sure before the first cell happens, because we are a soul and we can remember, a myriad of lifetimes. So the soul is there already, it has its consciousness. So, but when the first cell is made, of course, the soul participates in that. And so let's say that at that moment, there is like an imprint in the cell, in the first cell already. And but then, yeah, so the first cell is gonna do its little trip to be implanted into the uterus. And so that moment of implantation is also a connection a little bit deeper already.
Hmm.
It's really finding your little niche there, little nests. And so the soul already has this little toe into, into the body.
Yeah,
The
into the
body is
physical
not
realm.
very, very, very small. It's like just a few cells. And then afterwards, when the mother then discovers that she's pregnant, that's also a moment that there is a deeper connection even. And then so gradually, in fact, it is at the moment of birth, on the first breath, moment of the first breath. For sure, I forgot one of them also. The 17th day is through the account of Jeffrey Hudson, who was clairvoyant, clairvoyant responsible for theosophy, like 100 years ago. That's what he said. Like the 17th day is when the heart starts beating, and that's also an important moment. So there also again the soul comes in connection a little bit deeper, even with the body and with consciousness of the body. And then so at the finally the moment of the first breath, that's when the soul definitely enters completely.
Hmm.
Because before the soul can still come and go. So the soul can still, before this moment of the first breath, the soul can just leave and still visit the realm of the souls, and come back and participate even in the buildup of the body, in connection with the mother, with the angels, the light beings that are building all the different bodies, in fact, of the baby. And so it comes and goes, and it needs to go also to just recharge a little bit so that it can come back with even more um, beautiful energy to build up the baby. So, in fact, they're all true, but it's all just all different stages.
Hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on the birth canal as the baby is being birthed and moving through the birth canal? I have heard that this is considered the period where the baby goes through amnesia on purpose. So the soul is going through their amnesia process as they are going through the birth canal. What are your thoughts on that or anything else related to that?
Yes, yeah, and there also there is a gradual, let's say, closing of the screen of consciousness. So before birth, the process of labor, there is this wide consciousness, very open and wide, and in 7 stages, in fact, the let's say the consciousness closes down, and so. It is Bernard Monteau, who is a French, no, a person from Quebec, a chiropractor from Quebec, who has discovered that. He's written a book about it, but I think it's only in French. And he has seen with his clients that at the moment of the moment of the umbilical cord, when that is uh, cut, that really the soul is completely let's say um, it's not disconnected, of course, from the body, but it is too hard to see the situation on earth here, because the difference between this wide open consciousness of unconditional love and the consciousness that the baby has about the consciousness of humanity and the people that are welcoming him. They see through, almost through the being of the nurses that are taking care of the baby, and even the consciousness of the mother, who is not perfect, of course, and we should not feel bad about that. We're not perfect, eh? So, but the soul is so incredible. Incredibly aware that they can just see through, and see all the limitations that the mother still has to work on, and the nurses also, and the lack of connection, of knowing where the soul is at that moment, so, and that's too hard for the baby to fathom. And so they just decide to close the doors to that consciousness. Or maybe there might still something going on, and it depends on the strength of the soul, that there is still a consciousness that will be there. And we know also that babies are still in this awareness of connection. There is still a connection, a little bit there going on, but it's not as wide open as it was before.
Hmm. So, what is the most common imprint that you see from intrauterine life that shapes like adult suffering?
Well, what I encounter almost all the time is this feeling of not being good enough. Of yeah, I with almost every person I work with, they have that feeling that something is lacking in their worth, so the worthiness.
And how does that start intrauterine versus like childhood experiences that would bring that about?
Yeah, well, it depends, of course, eh? So there are also lots of graduations. There are different stages in that feeling. But as mothers are not very conscious about the awareness of the baby, baby is really a very aware mini human being, um, and the mother is not completely, on most of the time, like maybe this is changing now in the last decade at least, I think. But what I see is working with people that are, already 30, 40, 50 years old. And in that time, the mothers were not conscious about what the awareness of the baby was. So they were lacking the connection with the baby and the welcoming, the conscious welcoming. So if the baby doesn't receive that, he feels like, oof, maybe I shouldn't have been here, and there are many situations through which the mother has to live through, like a relationship difficulty, there's no harmony, maybe the partner has left, so the mother is on her own, and the baby feels that, like he becomes to feel guilty, even, that he is the origin of the problem of the mother. Um, there can be, yeah, other trouble, like for instance, the couple is not married, and 30 years, 40 years, 50 years ago, that's the big problem.
Mm.
They were still studying, maybe there my financial problems, maybe a problem with their with their boss or something, problems with acceptation from the family. There's so many things, like or even a miscarriage before, and the baby doesn't feel that he has the right to be there.
So, what would be a conscious welcoming for the baby?
Well, that's in fact in the perfect way would be that the mother can really prepare consciously before conception and to work, on self-development, to become aware of where she is lacking in her own self-confidence, for instance, because that's also a thing that plays out if the mother is not really connected with her emotions and working on herself. The baby will just take that over. So it needs to be done, in fact, in the best case scenario, like the mother starting before conception. And then, of course, even if that has not been done, if the baby, from the moment that the mother feels, becomes aware that she's pregnant, that she completely accepts the soul in the baby, even if there are some trouble, if there are some trouble, like financial troubles or maybe relationship problems, that she can say to the baby, okay, it is not perfect here, but I really welcome you. I love you
Mm.
to death, really
Yes.
completely. And I will work on all this, but it is not your burden. So if you feel some anxiousness coming from my way, please set it aside. It's not your burden. It's not your suitcase. Give that back to me, okay? Because you are completely welcome and loved. And so whenever there is also a stress, a tension going on during these 9 months, which is very normal,
Mhm.
life happens, and there might be some real, not easy things happening. If that happens more than a few days, then you need to go and look for help, like at least a friend to talk to or a professional.
That makes sense. And I think that's really important what you just said there about the welcoming and speaking to the baby's soul and even if it's just in your mind through meditation or just a reflection,
Right.
just that communication, because at that point communication goes beyond all time and space. And so reassuring the baby not to take on your burdens, to give it back to you is, I think, a really helpful thing to say. However, I also believe that the father is equally responsible for also doing his work, because the genetic material holds a lot of the current emotional states of the father just as much as it does the mother. And
Absolutely.
so I know Dr. Bruce Lipton usually speaks about, if you're really working on conception, and this is something you're planning for, that at least 3 months of clearing out, whether it's also like a physical detox, but also emotional detox, mental detox, all of this stuff is
Yes.
really important to get the genetic material in, I guess, a stronger state for a healthier baby.
Absolutely, that's right. And that might be a little bit more difficult sometimes for men to become aware of that.
Yeah, they
But
just think, and this is no disrespect to my male audience members by any means, but let's just be a little bit honest here. A lot of men are like, "Well, I just got to do my job, and then that's good for now." So that's something that I think
people think
is,
it's just, 1 second and there it goes. They
yeah,
are freed from attention, and then the rest will go its course, and
yeah,
everything's fine. Yeah, indeed, and that's such an important thing. But yeah, they feel less concerned because they think, I'm not creating this baby, like it's my wife is gonna do this. But indeed, of course, everything related to even alcohol, drugs, eventually, or just even if you're having a healthy lifestyle, it's always really important to check out what you genetically are going to give. I mean, just cleansing, a cleansing before
yeah.
going in through your own childhood, for instance, what you have experienced yourself. Have you been really been brought up in a way that was really helping you to open up to life, to be happy, or there's some things that you need to drop or to neutralize, to transform. There's so much work to be done, and of course, it's never really done completely. It's impossible to do that, and you have to know also that the soul really was looking for these parents because they are the vectors to wake up your own dormant things that you need to work on.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to understand, especially parents to be, in that, and also like anyone who might be a little bit younger listening to this, if you're in your teens or your 20s, early 20s or something, and you're kind of, because I know I started my healing journey when I was 20, right? And I had a lot of issues with my parents. And so it could have been really easy for me to just be like, God, why did my dad do this or whatever? But the reality is that I specifically chose my mom and dad for a reason. And now that I've done decades and decades of inner work, I can see the correlation between what my soul has wanted to learn in this lifetime and experience through a specific evolutionary process so that I could overcome things, and how like that was setting up things down the road in my life, like different experiences, different people I would come across, why I was choosing certain relationships, which I know were, when we choose certain romantic relationships in our earlier life, a lot of it is based off of, parental relationships. And that doesn't mean that that necessarily changes too much later on in life, but the healthier aspects come forward more so from your parents' relationships than not. And so I think it's important for especially any parents that are parents to be, current parents, or people who are considering becoming parents one day, that you cannot save your child from all of the wonderful lessons that are here on earth that we're
Yeah.
meant to go through, and that your imperfections may be exactly part of the reason why the soul has chosen you and your partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like that in life. We can see that as an adult too, that all difficulties that we go through, in fact, always have a gift in it
Hmm.
because it pushes us, it wakes us up to say, hey, this is a struggle I have. I have to deal with it. And thanks to that struggle, I will overcome something. I will develop some quality here, a skill, or um, in some way it is a gift, and so it is for the soul also. But of course, it would be too easy to say, okay, we just do whatever, and the soul will have to deal with it because it has chosen us. So that's the other side. Of course, that would be a little bit easy. But yeah, like my case, and maybe I can tell a little bit my story here. Hey, so
Yes, please do, because that is a very, well, it's a tragic one, but also one filled with healing and hope.
it is, absolutely. So, my background is occupational therapy. So that normally it's working with disabled people or with people with mental issues in psychiatry. And when I was studying, in fact, I was always asking this question, why are people becoming in the impossibility to deal with life, or why do they develop these disabilities? And I didn't really have answers during my studies, of course, but through a friend, I learned that in fact lots of things are happening before birth, and so. That was my opening into this whole idea. And then a few years later, myself, I was in a state of a little bit of depression, let's say, and I was wondering, where does it come from? And I decided to go meditate and ask for to show me the origin of this. And I had already learned that you can just go, a staircase, down the staircase, and then find somewhere a memory where you can come to the roots of that problem. And so when I was on the staircase, I saw an opening in the wall, and there was my mother sitting, and she said, "Hey, come in, and let me tell you about the period when I was expecting you." And so my mother was somebody who wanted to have seven children, like it was in her upbringing, and I was only the fifth. So there was lots of space in her heart, and she really said yes to me with her mind, but her body said no because she was so tired with four boys in a really early stages, like between 6 years old, as my brother, my oldest brother was 6 years old, and then three younger ones. So imagine the youngest brother I have was like 1 year old. So she was so overburdened with caring for them for sure. So also being taking into account a fifth one coming, there was not a lot of attention to me, like consciously. And her body was always aching, like she had like back pain, she had migraines, and I felt this ambivalence. Like there was a big yes, but there was also a big no, and that made me feel not worthy. No, in fact, I shouldn't have been here. I'm bringing problems to my mother, etc. So, and that was the basis of my depression in some way. It was not a very, very deep depression, but anyways, from that moment on, I was starting to devour all everything I could find, from literature, but that was in the 80s, eh? So there was not a lot yet
Hmm.
written. It was only the start at that moment, and so I really completely devoted my life to work on helping people to work preventively rather than curatively as an occupational therapist. And so I became a childbirth educator, etc. I started then, working with people, with pregnant women, to talk about all this and make them aware. I had not had a child myself, but anyways, I had my experience of being a fetus. And so now, 20 years later, so in the meanwhile, I was also into spirituality. And 20 years later, when I was really very successful in working with making pregnant women more aware, preparing them for birth, I was so steeped in that, in these ideas. Uh, then there came the call to come to Canada to work in a center where we are specialized in working with pregnant women, and it was there that I made I made a connection with my husband, who became later my husband, and so it took a few years for us to really start thinking about children. But there was really a pull. We really felt we were married because we felt there was a soul that wanted to come. And we started to prepare very consciously, like, cleaning out everything that I could from on all levels, energetic, emotionally, etc. My husband too. And that's where I went to Quebec to follow a course, the therapy of intrauterine life. So where I was able to clean out my whole um, story before birth also. And when that course was finished and I was certified, my husband decided to go on a trip. He was, in fact, an alpinist. He was the first climber of Quebec who had reached Mount Everest.
Oh, really? Wow.
And in the 90s, that was before I knew him.
Hmm.
And so he was like a seasoned climber, and he wanted to go on another trip after that in British Columbia here. So there was a mountain that was never climbed, and that was Mount Hope. And together with three other people, they wanted to go to the top of that mountain, which was way lower than Everest for sure. So for him, it was not a difficulty. Now that mountain was never climbed, and yeah, they had to be brought with a helicopter to the foot of the mountain because there was no road. It's just a pristine jungle.
Hmm.
And they took boats with them, inflatable boats in the helicopter because the helicopter pilot was not able to come and pick them up. because it was fire season at that moment, and all the helicopter pilots were on standby.
Okay.
So what they didn't know, so they would have come over with the boats over a river, the Incomapleu River, that was never navigated neither. Uh, what they didn't know was that the beaver dams had been blown up in the mountains so that there would be more water in the lake where the river was flowing into. So for the helicopter pilots to have the water to put out the fires. And so what they didn't know was that the level of the river was 8 feet higher than normal,
Oh my goodness.
which became Olympic level. And so they set out on the river with the boats after their trip to the top. And yeah, they were very cautious, but at a certain moment, they didn't see there was like a turn in the river, and what came after that were wild rapids. And they turned over in the cold glacier water. And so, of course, we know that it doesn't last long, that the body is in hypothermia and that you cannot move anymore. So, one out of the four was able to be rescued. He was able to grab a tree and to come to the shore, but that was not my husband. So, there was a whole search and rescue process going on for 2 weeks till we were really coming to the evidence that, there was really nothing to be, we would not be able to find them, so they were not even able to find anything about the bodies, only the boats and some torn life jackets. And so, yeah, I had to come to accept
How
what,
far along were you in your pregnancy when this happened?
well, I didn't even know that I was pregnant at that moment.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
So I came back home, and then a few days later, I discovered that I was pregnant. And that was just the beginning, eh? So the second month, I had not been able to really think about all this because we were so busy searching for them. And, I had lost a little bit of blood and had some cramps. So, but, I was not really busy. I thought maybe it's because of the stress that I'm going through that it is just a few drops here. Um, and I didn't think about checking if I was pregnant or not, So it was only when I came back that I dreamed about having twins, even. And there I understood that the little bit of a drop of blood that I had, that it was one of the twins that had passed on.
Mm.
So yeah, so I had to come to the conclusion that this baby would never see his dad. And with everything I knew about, the psyche of the baby, this was, of course, an incredible shock for me after of course, the initial shock of losing my husband, to know that my baby had been going through all this stress in the beginning of his life, and the clue as the incredible situation was that one of the team members also was going to become a father. So he died also in this trip, and his wife came over. So, and she knew already that she was pregnant. She was a little bit further ahead than me, and we were taking care of her, like really, doing everything we could for her, that she would feel supported and cared for in every way possible. And yeah, I was oblivious to the fact that I was pregnant too. Yeah, so, but anyways, I've been working on that, and luckily I had this background of 20 years into spirituality that has helped me a lot. And so, even if you're prepared completely and you're so conscious about, the conception, because we had been having, a really very enlightened moment, and at that moment of conception. But yeah, you never know. At that moment, I was not really that sensitive to have known what was happening in my body. We
Sure.
we were not at home. We've had another moment of conception before that, a year before that, where I had felt immediately, the big bang of the conception going on. And I knew immediately that I was pregnant.
I
But
I had a girlfriend who told me she knew the moment. She's like, I felt it. She was like, no one can tell me. She goes, I know the exact moment it happened. She's like, I'm pregnant.
yes, absolutely. I have known that so the year before, but that was really a very beautiful situation. We were in nature. We were really very consciously preparing. But this time we were not at home. We were in another province, in a house that was not ours. In a city also, and so the whole atmosphere around it was very different. And and so there was this whole preparation going on for the trip of my husband, and that made that I was not aware.
Mm,
We could have known, we could have known because I was a little bit my
distracted.
stomach was upset, etc. But yeah, well, my mind really was not eliminated at that moment. But yeah, it needed to be like that, I think. And so afterwards, of course, I've been working with somebody who had been going to the same training as me, and through all the meditation possibilities, I was able to talk to the baby and say, I'm so sorry for what had happened here. And you can really drop all the stress and know that you are so welcome. I know that you wanted to be here through all this trouble, and I'm gonna do all everything that I can, even if I'm alone, knowing that my husband, that I'm still connected with him in some way. I really felt him very close by.
Do you believe that your child and husband had a soul contract around that timing?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And so, that brings me to the next step, because I only discovered that very later on, when I was learning about soul contracts, because I didn't know that much about that at that moment. So when my son was 14 years old, I had the possibility to talk to a medium, who was able to come in contact with, the other side, the souls that have left the earth. And so I've made an appointment with this medium, and in fact just for my son, so that he could have some answers to his questions. But there was also a message for me, and that said that, this was all, you agreed to that soul contract, that he would leave early, but that he would stay with me in order to make me come in contact even more with the other side. And so that's where I decided to develop these Akashic records. Um,
Oh,
right. It's in fact through that contact, because I had already some contact in meditation with angels, and always the same. That was a preparation before, but I was not sure, is this right? Is that my fantasy? You have all these doubts, eh? Um, but when I knew that I had signed a contract to do this, to develop this, then I said, okay, I have to go for it, and I have to find somebody to guide me. And that's when I found my teacher, Lisa Barnett, who taught me to become a certified Akashic record reader. And that is now.
so okay, so this is, I mean, this is why it's so difficult for us in our very linear thinking as a human to even come close to imagining the intricacies and depth of the layering of contracts and timing and experiences and connections and all of that that come into play. I mean, the divine orchestration behind it all is so intricate. So your husband and your son had a contract around the timing for their own reasonings, but also for your husband could then help you connect to the Akashic records at a much deeper level once he was passed.
Yes. Yes, that's right. So he made me aware of that I had accepted to do this and that he would help me. So I have been not that much connected or receiving messages directly from him. I have had that, but he was maybe like the catalyst to make me search for a guide. And I'm sure that he is helping in the background, protecting me, helping me, and he has been helping me on many levels. In fact, I know, he has made me in contact with people for whom I would be able to work, for a certain time, and all these things. I'm sure about that, and yeah, especially the love that continues to flow. Is the love is was still there, and that's such a blessing because when the other one leaves, it's like you can step into that victimhood like you were mentioning before, hey, but you can also say, this is an occasion to develop even more sensitivity, to feel his presence, and to get over the sadness and the grief process, so that I can still connect to him, because there were moments that I was too sad to feel that.
Yeah.
And it's like, the curtains were closed, and I knew it is not him cutting down, on me. It's because I'm too sad. I'm in a frequency that doesn't allow me to
Hmm.
feel his presence. And I
Yes.
have to grow over that, through that, lifting myself up to this unconditional love, because I know also that he has helped me to um, restore that belief, or to transform that belief that I was not worthy of love, which was happening before. I thought always that I didn't deserve to be loved
Hmm.
before I met him, and he has changed that, and it's as if he has opened the door to a love that is even bigger than the one that just comes through a human being.
Hmm.
Of course, love is everywhere. Love is everywhere in nature and in the cosmos. And so, that he has been instrumental for me in my development in enormous way. So, yeah.
Mm. So, what do the records reveal about maybe why certain people will choose challenging womb experiences?
Well, yeah, of course, they say also, there is such intricate way to make your own plan as a soul. Of course, if you're not very evolved, if this is one of the first incarnations, you might be brought upon a path that is chosen for you and that you agree to. As a soul, you say, okay, I listen to my guides, they know better than me. They will help me to make a path that I will go, and it will not be easy, but I know that it will be the best way for me to evolve even through all these difficulties. Um, so a soul that is a little bit more evolved will have a choice between several, like maybe like three or something. I know that for me, it was like I had a choice for three possibilities. And I was able to choose, okay, I would like to choose that set of parents in that country. And yeah, the more you are evolved, if you're completely like an enlightened being, you choose completely yourself. Like you have all of possibilities, and you can even choose, like, these the enlightened masters. Oftentimes, they choose really from their own choice completely, big difficulties of poverty, of war, of starvation, of really hard starting up difficulties in life, because they know that that's a guarantee for them to become to have the experience so that they can help other people who are in this situation, and also to grow, to come to their real wisdom and their real soul essence. They will have to dig deeper because of these big difficulties. So you have to dig deeper, and so that means that you come to that way deeper knowledge and wisdom experience that you have in connection to this wide universe that is there.
And what about the renegotiation of your contracts that were perhaps, well, this is a two-part question. One, are you able to renegotiate a contract through perhaps going back in time, like time traveling? We call it time traveling, even though it's just literally using your memory, going back your visuals, like sensories, all of that, to back to the time of the womb to renegotiate a contract so that it is nullified or changed in some way for who you are in this moment today. One, can you do that? And then the other question is, um, have you seen from your own experience or know of perhaps other entities coming in to disrupt or get the soul to sign a contract that is maybe less in their favor, like through, I don't know, maybe covert ways? Like, I feel like that might be a possibility.
Yeah, well, anyways, it is possible to change it. If it is really so crushing you, the invisible world doesn't want you to be suffering in that sense that you cannot move anymore, that you're so stuck that you cannot get out of it anymore. And that is indeed possible. Because, when we are up there, it's such a beautiful place there and such a beautiful consciousness that we just take on as much as possible, especially
Yeah.
now I see that with people that I am working with, that they are going through such incredible difficulties, but they have chosen it so that they can free themselves quicker because of the whole uplifting of humanity right now, the whole ascension process. They
Hmm.
want to get rid of their karma as quick as possible, but they might have taken too much on their plate
Hmm.
because they were not in that consciousness how difficult it is here,
Yes.
Indeed, um, you sign up for some things, but the people that you are with also have their free will. Like, for instance, you sign up for a mother who seems to be very open, but she has a free will to deal with her own possible difficulties in a positive way or a negative way. And she can turn to the negative side, and
Hmm.
then it becomes way more difficult. And
Yeah.
you can't foresee that. You cannot always foresee that because they have their free will. And that makes that the circumstances become more difficult. It's a little bit like you go, you're working throughout the year, you have a lot of difficulties to deal with, and then you go on a holiday and you feel free, and you're on the beach somewhere on the top of the mountain in a retreat, and everything feels so beautiful, and you're completely like, oh, life is beautiful. And then you start making plans again. Oh, you'd like to work on that and to do that and that and that. You make a plan for when you come back, and you forgot already how difficult it is to deal with the circumstances you're in. And then, when you come back, that's like, the things we make up, the program we make up at the beginning of the year is the same thing, so few things are really realized because we are not always very realistic in what we take on. So, and then, yeah, the influence, it's part of being in this human body, for sure, that there is lots and lots of overlays on our soul. There is another side that is trying to keep humanity down, and that have been putting layers and layers on the etheric level on our consciousness to make sure that we would not be able to connect again with this higher world. And um, yeah, so it's always possible if you keep the door open to the astral, the lower astral world,
Hmm.
that there are tricks coming in to get you. So
I
uh,
think like
things are-
that sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you there. Just because I want to make sure that we kind of go a little deeper on this. I think that too, because those souls that are on the earth right now and coming in are much more evolved. Our consciousness is evolving rapidly right now because of the ascension process that the earth is going through. That there's also now we're faced with new lessons and new teachers that exist in other realms and other possibilities beyond this dimension. And it's part of the ascension process, I believe, because if we're going to be going and operating in different realms and different dimensions, which we're absolutely capable of doing, this technology, this skin suit is much more, is probably the best technology here on the planet. And there's something to be said about our ability to utilize it more responsibly, more consciously. And I think sometimes we need these darker situations or teachers to show us the extreme polarities so that we understand exactly how far we can go.
yeah, absolutely. And it's let's say on purpose in some way. uh, we needed to go to completely the deepest down, of the cycle in order to be really motivated to come out. Because if you're not completely aware of where you are, in which soup you're sitting, in fact, this dark atmosphere that really tries to get us all the time, then we will not become strong enough or aware enough to cut all these ties. So for sure, and I think in that sense, we have better technology than AI in that sense, like, to be enhanced, with some chips in the brain or whatever. It's not going to help us to do that, to free ourselves. We have an incredible technology in ourselves that we can develop so much more, and it takes time, for sure. So and the souls, as you said, souls that are coming in are the souls that are coming to help humanity also. And that is why it is so important now that young people that wanted to start a family or want to prepare for a next child, that they really do the best they can to match the frequency of these souls, because there are many, many very evolved souls, and they cannot always find the bodies that connect, that are, let's say, matching their frequency. And that is so
Yeah,
important.
sorry. Yeah, that because the the mother needs to be of a strong enough frequency to hold that pregnancy,
Right.
because if the energy is too much, she can't be the container for it, which means then the soul may have to leave.
Yeah, that's right. And that is also, I think, what I went through with this first pregnancy that didn't last very long. But for me, in my consciousness, it was almost like a full pregnancy. I was so incredibly conscious of every moment, incredibly. And that was probably a very highly evolved soul that I was not ready for at that moment. I really needed to let go still of lots of things that I was not aware of, that I had not been able to overcome at that moment. So, and it's so important that there is help coming from these evolved souls, because we are gonna change society completely. All the systems are breaking down, on all levels, like the educational system, the medical system, the political system. Everything is like cracking now, because it is based on the ego mindset. And we have to go to that mindset of the soul. And
Hmm.
so that's why, I really invite all the people that are listening here that want to prepare, or to just also, for themselves, to do a work on cleansing their own start in life, so that they can be also more of service for this whole process.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from what I've learned through my own journeys, my own meditations, everything combined, that the womb space is a powerful portal. It is a very, very powerful portal, not just for childbirth, for
Mhm.
bringing children into this world, but for bringing anything into this world, as well as traveling from this world to other worlds beyond this realm. And that was one of the, I mean, if it can come in one way, it must be able to go out another. Like it's a doorway, right? It's a portal. So
Yeah,
that was something that I was shown, and it was able to connect me to some very high frequency guides of mine
yeah.
through utilizing the womb as a portal. And this is why a couple years ago I created this course called the Womb of Activation, to show not just women, but men also how to activate this area, because even energetically, men have that creative center of
Yeah.
birthing things into this world, creative ideas, businesses,
Yes.
anything, right? Projects, whatever it might be. And it was incredible how heightened my intuition has become. And others that took that course immediately while in the course were able to access higher levels of their own intuition, things that they've never been able to see before, just
Mhm.
through that activation. Um, how has your experience been with that kind of intuitive expansion through the womb portal?
Yeah, well, I have maybe not through the womb portal, especially done trips like that. But of course, being in the womb, there already just being there, you are completely immersed in that paradise-like state again. And as you said, you can come in contact with your guides there, become more aware of the help that is there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit like a near-death experience, and the other side then, you go to the other side and there you have like an instantaneous understanding of things. Yeah, well, indeed, like the womb is the place of creation, of condensation. In fact, that's the power of the woman is to form what the spirit has given you through the man. Like the man is the portal for the spirit, the womb and the woman is the opening to the soul and the condensation. Like the soul is already like a matter that the spirit has created in some way. So like an intermediate between the spirit and the body. So the woman has this possibility to condense heaven on earth, in fact, through the
Mm-hmm.
womb, also in the other way. So for you, it is like going through the womb to the other side, which is absolutely possible. It's like the way that I do it is like to go through a time channel, and to bring you to the place where you need to be, and that can be the birth or the 9 months in somewhere, some moment that was necessary to go through conception or before. And then in that before, you can go to past lives. You can travel anywhere, in fact. So, of course, there might be other techniques that I have not experienced exactly, but yeah. So, in fact, it comes to the same thing. It's like, in fact, yeah, we are in some way a
Well,
portal in ourselves.
here's what's really interesting about what you shared. This idea like of the condensation, right? Condensation of the soul into through the womb. Um, Completely agree. And it's like we always, when we revisit the womb space, whether it's through our own healing or we would like to intergalactically travel through time and space, different dimensions. What I was shown and it is in full alignment with what you said is that in order to open the portal, so to speak, I was shown to completely surrender in the waters
Mm.
of the womb space. So I had to envision myself floating in the waters, and as I did, I was allowing it was full surrender. So surrender was a huge component
Mm.
of the portal opening. And as I surrendered and allowed myself to be nurtured and held, and through complete trust, that is when the portal opened and I was able to travel.
Mm.
Now, when we think about why maybe some women are having a lot of difficulty getting pregnant these days, is because there's a lot of stress and pressure that women are putting themselves under, and also society in a way, whether it's intentionally or not. It's there, and so women are being taken out of the state that is necessary for the soul to come in to implant, right? And so it's like you've got to be in the most nurturing, welcoming, receptive place, which means full surrender, relaxation, nurturing, all of that. And so for whether it's to come in or to, travel for a little while outwardly, it's the same formula.
Absolutely. So, being pregnant, in the word itself already, you're impregnated. You're impregnated. So, but in fact, yeah, in the sense of condensing what is around you. So, women in general, when they're pregnant, they are aware of this other world. Like, they have their intuition heightened. They are very, very sensitive. They cannot stand some disharmony or big noises or whatever. I remember from my own pregnancy, I was not able to stand, music that was not harmonious. It was just crazy. We are so, it's like our pores are open to this other world. And indeed, it comes through the womb, it comes through the whole endocrine system and the chakra system, the aura. We are surrounded with angel beings that are working on the baby. And so, if we can let them work with their energies and the colors and music and sound and especially our mind, mindset, like, positive mindset, to being really in this atmosphere of love as much as possible. We are imprinting that in the child. And there is a beautiful idea that really stays with me from Jeffrey Hudson again, this clairvoyant, theosophical clairvoyant, who has been following women also through the months, and so he was able to see the angels working on this woman. And he said in the fourth month, a pregnant woman, has the power of a master to change the karma of the child.
Really?
Yes. So a master, an enlightened being, he has the possibility to work on his disciple when they see that they are really working hard and really well. They are able to change the trajectory of their lives and to change karma. They have the ability to.
On the baby's trajectory,
Well,
or
I mean, for the an adult's disciple of really trying to get ahead in development, in spiritual development, a master has that possibility to change the karma of a disciple.
okay,
And
yeah, that's what, okay, I am
freedom
understanding. Yes.
to free them from past life errors, etc. So a mother, when she is pregnant, and he talked about especially the fourth month, when a woman can, as much as possible, um, soak in a spiritual atmosphere in some way, like by attending services or by chanting, by singing, by being in nature, by meditating, praying, etc., then she is imprinting on the astral body of the child, like, let's say, some gemstones in consciousness, like imprinting of very powerful energies that will help the child in later times when he will encounter some karmic elements. He will be able to overcome that way easier. Way
What is it
easier.
about the fourth month in particular that brings that forward?
Well, it is the building up of the astral body of the child. And
Oh,
so, she is then, in fact, invited to really work with everything spiritual, everything around the heart. Yeah, so to be really being very conscious about your emotions, your connection with the universe, with everything that is uplifting, in fact, a higher frequency, and especially that mindset of meditation where you feel really this bliss and everything.
Mhm.
So if you know that, wow, I find this such an incredible power we have.
Well, it's interesting too because the number four really represents the structure, the foundations,
Right?
right? The sense of safety, all of those things.
Right.
Fours really bring forward. So I can see just even from a numerology standpoint, but if
Really.
that's also the timing of the astral body coming in and a lot of work being done there, then that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, it's in fact all the time, like the moment of conception is as important, of course, because you really make the first cell, the first trajectory of the whole cell that will connect with all the other cells, what has been imprinted there.
Hmm.
So, and yeah, but especially this fourth month. But I find, the whole 9 months is really important enough. And as you said, pregnant women are so much taken aback by the need to perform, the need to be a super mom, you know, working till the last moment in all the stress that society has going on. It's too bad. So if we could just be more aware of the possibilities we have to bring really all the best to the next generation, so that they can help on their terms, in their time, to build up the humanity and society on a basis of harmony, on the nobility, using also, if the women can already program the baby, and some people have a little bit of weariness about that, but we are programming the baby anyways. If you're conscious of or not, you're programming the baby with your mindset, so if you're happy, you will imprint the baby with happiness. If you bring in all the elements that you can um, to program the baby with, it's like an artist, or like people in sports, they are programming themselves for the next performance, with being in alpha state and seeing them really perform well, stronger than ever, better than ever. They see themselves, they visualize themselves in the future. It's very precisely, with everything they can see, they can hear, what they will be doing, what they will be saying, what they will be maybe singing or performing. And, in this way, they program themselves. And, this is very consciously done. So, in the same way, we can program already the subconscious of the baby in a way that we can say, I would like my baby later on after birth, for sure. You will bring your child to develop creativity, for instance, or um, solidarity, or yeah, unconditional love, or intelligence. You will child to develop that in some way. You have your choices in what you would like your child to develop. Well, you can already gently do that by visualizing your child just being happy, being healthy, being intelligent, being wise,
Hmm.
having this connection to nature and this empathy for people. You can visualize that, and in fact, in that way, it will just work out at the moment that they will go through their development process.
Yeah. Well, this has been a very wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, Christina, for sharing all of your wisdom with us and insights. I think this is going to be extremely helpful to many current parents, upcoming parents, parents to be right now. I think this is like really helpful, like in understanding the spiritual process, what we're still able to be part of, even in the pregnancy phase. I had no idea about that fourth month. I find that highly intriguing and also very powerful. So, and thank you for sharing your story with us. I know that that was a deep tragic loss on your end, but also a gift for many people to learn from you what that brought forth, and also I guess a gift from your husband from the other side as well.
Oh, absolutely. So we agreed to that together, and my son too. And I must say, my son, I have tried to do the best I could for him to free his path. And of course, he will have to go through some process also because he lost his father, and I was not able to replace that. So, but I must say that he has really like a maturity, and all his teachers or several teachers have brought that up, that he had really a maturity way more than other kids,
Mm-hmm.
and empathy for other kids, and in that way really a step forward in the sense that he has gone through a transformation process too, and it has been a gift for him in some way too. So
Yeah,
uh, it is, and as I said, you look for the best situation, the best circumstances, but life happens,
it
and
does.
you cannot control life. And that was one of the things that has helped me a lot. Is a Chinese proverb that says there is one constant in the universe, and that is that everything changes. You cannot hold on anything.
Mhm.
Cannot hold on to anything. So uh, everything can change like that, and it is better to know that, so that it is easier than to adapt, and to to know that there is nothing that is written in stone, that there is nothing. Everything changes, and it is always for the best. Is always for the best.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
is not to tear us down, it is to uplift us in some way.
Well, please share with my audience where they can find you. And I know you have a book they could potentially read. Let everyone know what you've got available and where they can find you.
Yeah, so this is my book. I Can you see that in the
Yeah,
right?
Soul Journey to the Earth.
Okay. So Soul Journey to the Earth, Seeds for a New Humanity. That is my book, and you can find that on Amazon. And so my website is at this moment I'm reworking my website. So at the moment you can only find information about the Akashic Records, but I have other services to offer, and it's gonna come in a few weeks' time, I hope. But so the website the address is www.christinawarmenbol.com or akashicsoulwisdom.com,
Okay.
.net,
Well,
akashicsoulwisdom.net.
okay. Well, I will have those links in the show notes as always for everyone. Whether you're watching on YouTube, you can look below the video, or if you're watching or listening through Spotify, Apple, anywhere else. All those links will be there. So thank you, Christina, for being on the show, and to my audience. Thank you for joining us again this week. Just a little heads up. If you were interested in getting a reading with me, this is something I stopped doing last year, but I opened my doors twice a year for a limited time. You can do an intuitive reading with me that includes the tarot, it includes astrology, and anything else that you need to ask me. That is open right now for a short period of time, and I'll leave the link for that in the description below as well. So, thank you once again, Christina. Thank you for coming on the show, and to my audience, have a wonderful week. We will be back with you next week. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.